I stood outside my own front door in the middle of a violent storm, holding my 6-year-old daughter while my husband locked us out and laughed through the glass. He believed I had nothing left because he had already drained every bank account, sold every valuable thing I owned, and convinced everyone I was the failure. He never imagined that the tiny voice recorder hidden inside my daughter's soaked backpack had captured the final confession that would destroy him forever. By the time he realized what I had done, every lie, every theft, and every crime carried his own voice as proof. Before we begin, please like and subscribe. Now, get comfortable and enjoy. My name is Sarah Collins. 10 years earlier, I believed I had married the love of my life. Looking back now, I understand something I refused to see. He never loved me, he loved my money. When I first met Daniel, he looked like the kindest man in the world. He wore simple clothes. He drove an old pickup truck. He smiled with quiet confidence. He listened carefully whenever I spoke. After years of dating arrogant businessmen who only talked about themselves, Daniel felt different. He made me feel safe. At least, that was the performance. My father owned 3 successful construction companies across Texas. When he passed away unexpectedly, I inherited nearly $8 million, several investment properties, company shares, savings, rental income. I never acted like a millionaire. Most people never guessed. Daniel claimed he admired that. Now I know he studied it, every habit, every weakness, every fear. We married after 18 months. The wedding cost $125,000. Daniel insisted we keep everything elegant instead of extravagant. Everyone praised his humility. I was proud of my husband. During our first year together, everything seemed perfect. He surprised me with flowers, cooked breakfast, held my hand everywhere. Then little things started changing. He quit his job. He said his manager was disrespectful. I believed him. Months passed. He still wasn't working. Whenever I asked about interviews, he became irritated. He promised something better was coming. Nothing ever came. Instead, new expenses appeared every week. Luxury watches, designer sneakers costing $2,000, rare whiskey bottles, weekend trips with friends. Whenever I questioned the spending, he kissed my forehead. He called me paranoid. He reminded me that married couples shared everything. I apologized. Today, that memory still embarrasses me. The drinking came next to first, only weekends, then every evening. Finally, every morning. The smell of expensive bourbon mixed with stale cigarettes became the permanent scent of our house. When alcohol stopped exciting him, drugs replaced it. He denied everything, even when cash disappeared, even when jewelry vanished, even when I found tiny plastic bags hidden inside his jacket pocket. Our daughter Emily was born 4 years into our marriage. The happiest day of my life. The nurse placed her into my arms. Daniel cried beside me, or at least, I believed those tears were real. Emily became my entire world. She deserved stability. She deserved peace. Instead, she grew up hearing arguments through bedroom walls. She learned to recognize her father's footsteps. She knew which version of him was coming home, the sober liar. Or the drunk monster. No child should ever learn that difference. Mine did. The first time Daniel hit the dining room table hard enough to crack the wooden surface, Emily dropped her spoon and covered her ears before the sound even reached her. She had already learned what came after loud noises. Silence. Fear. Then another explosion. That broke something inside me. Not my love. That had already disappeared. It broke my excuses. The next morning, I opened every financial document in our home office. For years, I had trusted Daniel with daily banking because he constantly insisted he wanted to take responsibility as a husband. Responsibility. What a beautiful word for theft. I logged into our primary investment account. The balance showed $143,000. 3 years earlier, it had held nearly $2 million. I stared at the screen. I refreshed it. Nothing changed. My breathing remained steady. There were no tears. Only questions. I downloaded every statement from the previous 36 months. Transfer after transfer appeared. $20,000. $35,000. $50,000. Always sent to different companies. Different accounts. Different names. Most of them meant nothing to me. Until I searched the business registrations. 3 companies had the same mailing address. A small office building outside Dallas. The registered manager was Daniel's older cousin, Mark. Another company listed Daniel's mother as secretary. The final company existed only on paper. No employees. No business activity. Just a place where money disappeared. That afternoon, Daniel walked into the kitchen smelling of expensive cologne that failed to hide the sharp odor of whiskey. He smiled. "What's for dinner?" I smiled back. "Pasta." He never noticed the laptop already closed beside the fruit bowl. He never asked what I had been doing. Because men like Daniel never imagine the woman they underestimate is collecting evidence. Over the following weeks, I became someone new. I stopped arguing. I stopped asking questions. I stopped reacting. Daniel interpreted my silence as surrender. In reality, it was strategy. Every receipt went into a locked file. Every bank statement was printed twice. Every suspicious email was saved onto an encrypted hard drive. I installed cloud backups. I photographed luxury purchases. Rolex boxes. Casino receipts. Hotel invoices. Drug transactions recorded through screenshots from his own phone while he slept after drinking himself unconscious on the living room couch. The password never changed. Emily's birthday. Typical. Simple. Careless. I hired a forensic accountant named Michael Reeves. His consultation fee was $400 an hour. Worth every cent. After reviewing my documents, he leaned back quietly. Then he looked directly into my eyes. "This isn't reckless spending." "What is it?" "It's organized financial fraud." He estimated Daniel had diverted more than $6 million through shell companies over 5 years. $6 million. My stomach tightened. Not because of the money. Because of the planning. This hadn't been addiction alone. It had been preparation. Daniel wasn't simply stealing. He had been building an escape plan using my inheritance. Michael introduced me to an attorney specializing in asset recovery and financial crimes. Her name was Rebecca Lawson. Sharp. Calm. Impossible to intimidate. She read every document without interrupting. Finally, she closed the final folder. "You still have a chance. To recover the money?" She shook her head. "No." "Then what?" "To recover your life." For the first time in years, someone understood the real loss wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in trust. Rebecca advised me not to confront Daniel. Not yet. We let him believe he's winning. And then? We remove every possible exit. I nodded. For the first time in 10 years. I finally had a plan. The following 3 months became the quietest months of our marriage. Daniel celebrated what he believed was complete victory. He slept peacefully. He laughed louder. He spent money faster. Every time another transfer left one of my accounts, Rebecca simply smiled and added another page to the growing evidence file. "Let him continue," she kept saying. "The bigger the theft, the stronger the sentence." I trusted her. Meanwhile, Michael traced every dollar. The shell companies purchased luxury vehicles. A lake house. Cryptocurrency. Designer furniture. Even a speedboat registered under Mark's name. Nothing stayed hidden. Money always leaves footprints. One evening Daniel staggered into the house carrying a bottle of 18-year-old scotch that cost nearly $600. He placed it on the kitchen counter like a trophy. "You worry too much," he laughed. "We'll always have money." I looked directly into his eyes. "You're right." He grinned. He thought I finally understood my place. In reality, I understood his future. Emily noticed the change before anyone else. "Mommy," she whispered one night while I tucked her into bed, "Daddy doesn't make you cry anymore." I kissed her forehead. "No, sweetheart." "Are we okay?" "We're going to be." She smiled and fell asleep holding her stuffed rabbit. That tiny smile became my reason for staying patient. Then everything exploded. Daniel demanded another $500,000. He wanted to invest in what he called an incredible business opportunity. Rebecca had already warned me this moment would come. So I refused. Calmly. Without raising my voice. I can't. His smile disappeared instantly. What do you mean, you can't? The money is gone. He laughed. No, it isn't. It is. I said transfer it. There isn't anything left. For several long seconds, he simply stared at me. Then he slammed his fist against the marble countertop. You worthless woman. I remained silent. You had one job. Silence. Protect my future. There it was. Not our future. His future. The words echoed through the kitchen. Emily stood frozen near the hallway. She had heard everything. Daniel turned toward her. What are you looking at? She immediately lowered her eyes. I stepped between them. Go to your room, Emily. She ran upstairs. Daniel leaned close enough that I could smell whiskey, cigarettes, and the sickly sweetness of whatever drugs he had taken earlier. If you don't find more money, he whispered, both of you are useless to me. Every word settled into my memory. Not because they hurt. Because they would matter later. Rebecca instructed me to continue documenting everything. So I ordered tiny wireless security cameras disguised as smoke detectors. Another hidden microphone went beneath the dining table. One more inside the living room bookshelf. Completely legal. The house belonged solely to me. The recordings became horrifying. Daniel bragged to friends about spending my inheritance. He laughed about manipulating me into marriage. He admitted he had never planned to work again. Mark congratulated him. His mother called me an idiot. Together they discussed selling my final rental property without my knowledge. Every conversation was automatically backed up to secure cloud storage. Every file carried a date. A timestamp. An untouched digital signature. Rebecca listened carefully to hours of recordings. When she finished, she closed her notebook. They've built our entire case for us. She wasn't smiling. Neither was I. Because I already knew something terrible was coming. Daniel had run out of money. Desperate people make dangerous decisions. And Daniel had always been at his most dangerous when he believed someone else owed him everything. 2 weeks later, the storm arrived. Dark clouds covered the sky before noon. Rain hammered the windows with such force that Emily asked if the house was breaking apart. I told her everything would be fine. I was wrong. Daniel came home just after 8 that evening. He was soaked. His eyes were bloodshot. His movements were slow, but his voice was louder than ever. He threw a stack of unpaid bills across the living room floor. This is your fault. I looked at the envelopes. Credit cards. Loans. Overdue taxes. Every debt carried his signature. Not mine. I didn't create these. You should have fixed them. With what money? He exploded. He grabbed a ceramic vase and smashed it against the fireplace. Emily screamed upstairs. I immediately ran toward the staircase. Daniel blocked my path. You made me look weak. You did that yourself. The sentence slipped out before I could stop it. For a moment, the room became perfectly silent. Then he smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was cold. Empty. The kind of smile that appears when someone finally decides to cross a line they can never uncross. Get out. I blinked. What? You heard me. This is my house. Not tonight. He dragged our suitcases from the closet and threw clothes into them without folding anything. Emily came downstairs crying. Daddy, please stop. He ignored her. He opened the front door. Rain poured inside. You and the kid are leaving. I wrapped Emily in her raincoat. She clung to my arm so tightly that her tiny fingers hurt. Daniel shoved both suitcases onto the porch. Then he pushed us outside. The door slammed. The deadbolt clicked. Through the glass, I watched him raise a bottle toward me with a mocking smile. He believed he had one. What he never noticed was the tiny digital voice recorder inside Emily's backpack. Earlier that afternoon, I had hidden it there because Rebecca warned me to expect escalation. The recorder captured everything. His threats. His insults. His admission that we were worthless without money. Even the sound of him forcing us into the storm. I looked down at Emily. She was shivering. "We're going somewhere safe," I whispered. We drove directly to a hotel Rebecca had already reserved under a different name. The room overlooked the city's skyline. Emily fell asleep within minutes. I stayed awake. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I uploaded every recording from the hidden devices. Every bank record. Every photograph. Every financial report. Every witness statement. Every backup. 3 separate encrypted servers. 1 external hard drive. 1 package scheduled for delivery to Rebecca's office the following morning. If anything happened to me, the evidence would survive. At 8 a.m., Rebecca filed for emergency custody. An emergency protective order. A civil asset freeze. And a petition alleging fraud, financial exploitation, domestic abuse, and intentional dissipation of marital assets. By noon, the judge signed temporary orders. Daniel had no idea. He was probably still sleeping after another night of drinking. At 2:15 that afternoon, federal financial investigators received copies of Michael's forensic report. At 3:40, the bank froze every account connected to Daniel, Mark, and the shell companies. At 5:10, the first search warrant was approved. The trap had finally closed. Daniel thought he had thrown us into the rain. In reality, he had walked straight into the storm himself. 3 mornings later, Daniel arrived at the courthouse wearing a tailored navy suit and an arrogant smile. He expected another hearing where he would intimidate me into surrender. Instead, he walked into a courtroom already filled with investigators, attorneys, bank representatives, and reporters covering a growing financial fraud case. He looked at me. I looked back. No anger. No tears. Only calm. Rebecca stood and presented the first exhibit. Bank transfers totaling more than $6 million. Then came company registrations linking Daniel, Mark, and his mother. Michael explained every transaction in simple language the judge could follow. Every missing dollar had a destination. Every destination had Daniel's fingerprints. His attorney insisted the money had been gifted voluntarily. Rebecca pressed a button. The courtroom speakers came alive. Daniel's own voice echoed across the room. "You had one job. Protect my future." Then another recording. "You and the kid are useless to me." Another. "I never plan to work again. Her inheritance is my retirement." Silence filled the courtroom. Daniel's face turned pale. His mother stopped smiling. Mark stared at the table. The judge removed his glasses and slowly read through another folder. The forensic accountant from the bank confirmed forged authorizations. A digital expert verified the recordings had never been altered. The property records showed luxury vehicles, the lake house, and the boat had all been purchased using stolen funds. The judge ordered immediate seizure of every identified asset. Investigators served additional warrants before the hearing even ended. Daniel tried to leave. 2 officers stopped him. His expression finally changed. For the first time in 10 years. He looked afraid. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded him with cameras. The confident man who once laughed at me couldn't answer a single question. Within weeks, the shell companies collapsed. The luxury cars were repossessed. The lake house was auctioned. The cryptocurrency accounts were recovered through court orders. Mark accepted a plea agreement. Daniel's mother lost the property she had hidden under her name. Everything they built with stolen money disappeared. Exactly as it should. Emily and I never returned to that house. I sold it. Not because it reminded me of pain. Because I no longer wanted to own anything connected to Daniel. We moved into a beautiful home near the ocean. Every morning, Emily and I watched the sunrise with hot chocolate on the back porch. She laughed again. She slept peacefully again. She stopped asking whether loud voices meant someone was leaving. As for me, I rebuilt my companies. Hired honest people. Created scholarships in my father's memory. And promised myself I would never confuse charm with character again. Months later, I received one final letter from Daniel. He apologized. He claimed prison had changed him. He begged for forgiveness. I folded the letter once. Placed it into a drawer. And never answered. Some endings don't require revenge. Only silence. Because silence is unbearable for people who spend their entire lives believing they deserve the last word. I already had mine. It wasn't spoken inside a courtroom. It wasn't printed on legal papers. It was written in the peaceful life my daughter and I created without him. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Let me know in the comments what you would have done.